Welcome into the Ram Truck Workshop here at the Rebuilding Exchange. We are with Casey Burkitt.
Today we're going to be making a scrap coat rack. So
Really?
This is all stuff that I pulled out of the scrap bin here.
This is free.
This is going to be a pretty low budget coat rack.
But just like every other project we've ever done, we'll need some supplies. A piece of plywood in the size we want our coat rack to be, sorted scrap wood, a chop saw, a hammer, wood glue and nails, scrap hooks found in the hardware section here, a drill and bits, and some snips just in case we hammer all the way through the wood.
And then we'll need one Forstner bit. You can get away without using this. Since we have it, we're going to use it.
All right, Casey, sounds good. We have everything we need. Let's get to the first step.
All right, so the first step, we need to cut material to fit across our coat hook just like this. So you can see that these are lined up similar to how we're going to be putting them on here, but they're way too long.
Okay.
So these are about 8 inches. So we're going to cut all this material up into little 8-inch pieces and then attach it. Now we can just let's line them up. It looks like we got way more than we're going to need, which is great. Really mix them up and figure out what we want to do. This is where you get to let your creative side kind of run.
To start, we lay out the wood scraps to fill the plywood base and use some wood glue to attach it before we nail it in.
So the nails, I've got a couple sizes here, but if you only have one size, using a pair of snips, you can cut them down. What we want to look at is that we're not going to go through the material on the board into the table.
Otherwise you're going to damage your wall.
Yeah, if they're a little long, you can kind of snip them off. You of course want to be wearing your goggles.
Wait a minute.
There you go, I did it away from you.
A hammer and nails does the trick, but if you happen to have a nail gun, this work will be seriously fast.
Since we're out here in the middle of the warehouse,
We're using manpower.
we're using manpower.
Sure.
It's nice for everybody to get a chance to swing a hammer once in a while, which is why I'm gonna let you take a swing.
See, that was a good segue right
You
there.
like that?
You want me to nail my thumb, don't you?
As we're nailing in the scrap wood, this is a good time to think about where those hooks will go, so that you know you have a piece of wood wide enough and flat enough for the hooks to screw into.
That's why it's nice to have these big wider pieces. So we've got the face of our coat rack here, but what we don't want people to see is the fact that we put this on a piece of ply.
Okay.
So we want to cover that up and just doing the same thing using a piece of our scrap that we've already cut.
Casey cleans up the edges in just the same way that we did the face, with a little wood glue and some nails.
You can see, kind of nice finishing touch.
Okay.
Once the edges are done, we have one more step before getting those hooks on. We need a way to hang the coat rack on the wall, and this is where that Forstner bit Casey mentioned comes in.
So we're going to flip it to the back, and we're going to use keyhole hooks attached to the back.
Okay.
And that'll allow us to put a screw into the wall when it's on the back of that, and it'll just slide right on there.
Casey measures 4 inches from each side and 2.5 inches down from the top and marks his spot. Then out comes the drill and Forstner bit.
We're just doing just slightly bigger than the keyhole itself. Right here we made our little T. We're going to drill in a little bit. About 1/8 or 1/4.
We screw the keyholes into the back side of our coat rack and move on to the front to attach the hooks.
The one thing we do want to do is make sure that it's all about the same height. And we're just eyeballing thirds here, kind of looking to see where we like it. If you're a perfectionist, you can absolutely measure out and perfectly line up your thirds.
I drill the pilot holes and Casey follows me by attaching the hooks.
And there's a coat rack. It's ready to hang on the wall.
For just the cost of the screws and hooks and in under an hour, I've got a homemade coat rack, a conversation piece, and now I have no excuse to leave that pile of jackets at the door.
You mind if I take this one home?
Absolutely.